Hey everyone, welcome back to Black People, Black Problems. I am Annalicia Law.
I'm Ramada Haidara.
And I'm Damian Gillespie.
And today we will be talking about how the education system is deterring Black girls from pursuing STEM and what we as a community can do to change this. So first, we will be starting off with the segment Spittin' Facts because that's all we do here. And so the three main reasons why most African American females neglect STEM fields are undereducation, poor implementation of policies, and the lack of representation within the field already. As we know, there is a huge gap between the amount of Black women in STEM fields and between all other demographics. And so the three main reasons why most African American females neglect STEM fields are undereducation, poor implementation of policy, and a lack of representation within the field. So first, I'd like to just dive into why undereducation plays such a big role in really deterring Black girls from one, seeing themselves within the field, being able to relate to math and science concepts, and being able to continue their interests beyond elementary or like even kindergarten. So a few years back, the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, did an article, or really more of a study, about why African American females, Black females, are underrepresented within STEM fields. And one of the primary reasons that you see a very limited presence is because they, quote, say that Black females are undereducated. And by undereducated, they are referring to Black females as being only taught the fundamentals of math and science subjects, and instead of cultivating a passion and a true love for math and science subjects, they are taught the basics and just left alone. So I would like to know what you two, Ramada and Damian, would like to add to that. How do you feel about that piece of research?
So as a Black girl myself, growing up in a predominantly white area, like education, I just felt like my education was not tailored for me. And like I remember specifically being in like science classes and being like, this is boring, and like I don't really care because like I'm just trying to get the grade and be done with it. Like it wasn't really for me. And then same as like math, I remember one time I was in the car with my mom and I didn't do well in my math test in like the 6th grade or something, and I was like, I'm not Asian, like I'm not gonna be good at math. And mom had to explain to me like, like that's such a dumb thing to say, like it's not based on who you are. But I was kind of I guess groomed to believe that just because of my environment. And I feel like the most detrimental parts of being in environments is like that is like we don't have Black doctors anymore. We don't have enough Black women doctors, and that's where like our mortality rates and our child mortality rates come in. Like Black women have a 243% higher chance to die from childbirth than white women in America.
All of the points that Ramada just brought up are why the lack of representation is so important to us, like why we need more representation within the field. Only we know what we need. So a Black woman who is having like kidney failures or like internal problems while, delivering, only another black woman who understands the issues, the history of black childbirth, of our bodies. Only we can relate to that. And even as children, like, we have been groomed to believe that this image of a scientist or a doctor or an engineer, all of these different, like, components, all of these different fragments within the STEM field are black men. Like, that's the image that is portrayed. And so, like, so much so that if you were to ask a study group of children of all backgrounds, all races, socioeconomic backgrounds, anything, what they believe an engineer looks like, if you told them to draw a picture of what an engineer looks like, what a doctor looks like, 9 times out of 10 for a black or Hispanic or, person of color, they would probably draw an image of a white man with glasses, wearing a lab coat, and that shows a disconnect between that person and them. They don't see themselves being able to become a part of that image. They don't see themselves within these fields. And so we need to do our part as a society to change that, by encouraging kids in the classroom to continue to study math and science, by actively encouraging them, by choosing girls to answer at least just basic math questions in the classroom to build their confidence. And once that confidence is established, then you can work from that. All you need is a little bit. And some of the major dangers that come with only teaching students fundamental topics is that they are not being challenged to their fullest intellectual potential. So the article also poses this question: how can African American female students strengthen their interest in math and science if they are not being exposed to higher level concepts in these areas? And it's a valid question, because if you're not teaching them and strengthening their skills in these areas, they're not going to perform. They will perform poorly on achievement tests and standardized tests and all of these different tests that are designed to place you in the classes with which you belong. But if you can't prepare the students properly for these exams by hitting them with everything that you possibly can, then they won't do well.
Another weak point I would like to discuss in our education system is how heavily we rely on SAT and ACT scores to define the success of a student. Personally, I'm a psych major. That's kind of like a science, and I came into Howard as a bio major, and my ACT science score was the lowest of all of my scores, and like English was my highest, but like that didn't deter me from wanting to pursue a science-based major or a STEM major in general. And so I feel like, but that's me personally, and I feel like the ACT and ICT, those discourage people from actually wanting to pursue those things, because they're like, well, if I'm not good at it on a test, like, how can I make this my whole career? And we need to like teach kids from a young age that you can endure. Like, you're not supposed to, well, school isn't really something that you should be enduring. You should want to learn, and like the goal is like to be happy when you're learning and to like go to school and be excited to like figure something out. But like the way curriculum is set now, as Annalisa was discussing, is that like it's basically based on memorization and like lists and like testing and seeing how much information you could take in and spit back out. But like that is not going to build anybody's interest in anything. Like because what do you have to show for it at the end? Like, you memorize it for that little bit of time, and now you're memorizing for the next test. It's never so like you can apply it to actual life skills. And we're supposed to be raising children up so that they can like be prepared for the real world, and like the real world is not standardized tests.
So now that we have created an understanding of why undereducation is such a vital reason that African American girls kind of steer clear of STEM fields, I would now like to transition into why poor implementation of public policies are another hindrance for the progress of African American females within STEM fields. One of the major pieces of legislation that was discussed in the UNC Charlotte article is the Education Amendment Act, Title IX, that was passed in 1972, which states that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participating in, be denied the benefit of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Now, though this act is technically in place, it's technically being implemented, it is not being applied to its fullest potential, to the point where it is still discouraging specific groups, minority groups, African American women, from pursuing specific fields in math and science. One of the issues that Title IX does not specifically combat is the fact that there is a difference between the resources and the amount of opportunities that are allocated to majority white schools and majority Black urban communities and schools. And with that comes a lot of issues. The fact that Black students, Black girls need to be challenged in order to compete for a seat at the table in terms of these highly regarded institutions. And these issues stem from the fact that it is very more like there's a greater chance of a predominantly white school to be stocked with AP courses and IB programs. And my main proposal to combat the issues with equity and equality within the education system regarding Black students versus white students is a change in overall policy, because there needs to be a sense of equal opportunity, equal education within our system. And one of the ways that we can do this is by forcing primary education systems to introduce areas of engineering and coding and things like that to students at a young age, just as fine arts and fitness are requirements. They're basic requirements within the education system. Learning how to use C++ and learning how to be able to take apart a piece of, I don't know, like a robot or something like that, and being instructed to build it back up, is a part of the creative process as well. Like, fine arts does not lie only within, music and dance and all of that. It's definitely deeply rooted in engineering and design. And so,
just to add on to her comment about like dancing and like music being associated only with arts, like our representation is also very important. And with Black people and with Black women especially, our role models are Beyonce and like who else? I guess you could say like Oprah, but like these are people who have had like an underdog story, who've like been through some sort of trauma, and then they've come out and told their story in a beautiful way, and like, they're rich off of like their story. But white people, like, they don't have to have a story for them to be successful. They don't have to like tell their story. They can, like, white people are who we see. They don't have to struggle. White people are who we see when you go to the doctor's office, and they're the ones in the lab coat on a poster. Like, my orthodontist was white, my dentist was white, my doctor was white. Like, those are the things I associated with white people from a young age. So, like, when you see that, that also discourages children, because representation does matter. In places like Howard, though, it would be nice to say Howard is not representation of the world or our country in general. It's really not. Like, Howard is a rare place because we do produce Black doctors, but there need to be more Howards. In order for that to happen, we have to start kids up from a young age appreciating science and knowing that they can get through it, and like they can be good at anything. It doesn't have to be like your trauma is your only story, and like you can only build upon that. You can be anything you want, and you can marginalize your trauma. You can push that away. Like, you can internalize it for as long as you want, because you don't have to tell people your story in order to be successful. That doesn't have to be your only way of getting out.
And I feel like in the technological age that we live in, children are so technologically savvy already, more than we were and more than our parents were. Like, they can handle the load of being able to understand how things work within technology and engineering. And so it's our responsibility to prepare them and expose them at an early age to robotics and coding. And I almost wish that the things that I am learning and will learn in the future were exposed to me at a young age, because last semester was my first semester at Howard, and I am a mechanical engineering major, and my intro to engineering courses were devoted to digital design, and they were pretty intensive, but I do genuinely believe that if exposed to a young child, they could develop an understanding and an appreciation for what we call computer-aided design as children. Like, I genuinely believe that they can, develop an appreciation for material science by just making their own, like, silly putty or slime, or like just something that relates to them that they can appreciate as kids. All right, so I know that all of that was a lot of information, but now we will be transitioning into the segment Let Me Know, where we ask you all, the viewers, to send us questions about things y'all want to know. So I will start off with this first question that is for Ramada from @Carefree Black Girl, and it reads, as a first-generation American with an African background, did you feel pressured to pursue a STEM major?
I never felt pressured. I am friends with, I have a lot of African friends, so I do know that stereotype does have some truth to it. But personally, my mom has always like pushed me to like do what I enjoy. I was like raised with the expectation of going to college. It was never, am I going to college? It was always, where would I go for college? So I did know that like my education is what would build my success, would that would be my story. Like I always knew I was going to go to college, like, and you know, I guess evolve from there. But as a STEM major, I feel like my experiences and also my knowledge kind of just pushed me to be a STEM major more, because I was never really that good at science classes, to be honest. Like I avoided technology classes at all costs because I took a class in the 7th grade. No, it's technology and engineering, because I took keyboarding or whatever in like the 6th grade, and the teacher was really mean and I thought it was pointless, so I didn't like that. And then the engineering, because like I was not good at building robots and I didn't know which wires went and where, so that discouraged me. So those were my two things. I was like, no, I'm not good at it, because like when I was 12. But now looking back, I'm like, dang, like maybe who knows, like I could actually be okay at it, but like I will never know because I never really pursued that. But with science, it's different because I'm very into like social sciences. So I knew like I came in originally like thinking if I wasn't gonna be a bio major, I'd be an anthropology major. But I didn't want to limit myself. Like I didn't want to just be a researcher. Like I want to do more. So like I feel like that's mainly why I chose psychology as my major, because like I could go to law school or I could go to med school, but like it was never like my mom being like, but my mom wants me to do this, like, because I'm not living my life for her. Like I do want to appease her, but like I know that like whatever I do I will be successful in, so that will appease her.
That was a great response, Ramada.
Thank you.
So this next question comes to me from @_blackgirlmagicbit98. And she says, during middle school, I felt like I was encouraged to reach my highest potential. My dream school was Stanford, and my teachers nurtured my ambitions. However, throughout high school, my dreams were gradually altered by the realization that the curriculum in my high school, in regards to math and science courses, was not preparing me to accomplish that goal. How can we as a community continue to drive girls' ambition throughout high school? Well, that is a great question. So one of the major things that I believe that teachers and administrators can do to drive the ambitions of Black girls throughout high school is simply to continue to challenge and encourage them. Really challenge them wholeheartedly to step out of their comfort zones, to defy societal norms within STEM, encourage them to be the robotics team president and to learn, programming languages and learn skills, like technical skills that will help them in the future, in college, in the workplace. Just continuing to encourage them and push them out of their comfort zones, because comfort zones, people never seek discomfort. It's up to a professor or a teacher or a parent to continue to guide their students or guide their children into uncomfortable situations, because that really molds them into who they should be. With all of that being said, that is it for today's program. I'm Annalicia Law.
I'm Ramada Haidara.
I'm Damian Gillespie.
And this has been Black People, Black Problems. Goodbye.